This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The Radical is a car much loved and fervently followed by its fans. But after a few seasons of fun, the PRL has bid farewell to it in order to see whether there might be a better fit for their drivers on Thursday nights. Enter the Dallara Formula 3. A stepping stone towards Formula 1 for many of the greats over the years, this open-wheel machine will undoubtedly be a popular addition. But will the same faces be up at the top as we saw in the Radical? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 1 of the PRL Formula 3 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, the organizers have elected to kick things off for the F3 at the Nürburgring's GP course. Tell our audience what they'll be up against here.
Of course, and welcome everyone to the Nürburgring. This beautiful Grand Prix circuit was opened originally in 1984, and of course been to many different configurations. The current configuration that we are driving today, it's a GP circuit, 16 turns, 3.2 miles, 5.1 kilometers. This beautiful circuit will test any form of driver, no matter the car. So these Formula 3 cars that we see tonight will definitely test the mights of the drivers to see on this course. To see what it is like to take on the tight twists and turns, let us go on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Phil Lake in the GSRC Formula 3, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. Expect the Haucook to be one of the more common places to overtake. It's a long straight into one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit. The catch is that it's so tight through here, drivers often trip over each other when they lose sight of what line their opponents are taking. After that, you're into the Mercedes Arena. This newest addition to the circuit is mostly slow corners, so expect it to be mainly single file. You really need patience through this fiddly little section because you can rack up off tracks incredibly easily. Out of the chicane, you finally return to the main course. While you will pick up speed on your run down to Valvoline, this plunging left-hander is quicker than you'd expect. Passing is sort of rare into this turn. Plus, it's better if you stay hugged to the left side to set up for forward. This is ideally where you should put your focus on because the exit can either set you up for a pass or make you vulnerable to one. You continue to drop tons of elevation all the way down to the Dunlop hairpin. This is a much more likely place to see attempts at an overtake. Even still, drivers might find it hard to seal the deal. From off the corner, you'll switch sides quickly so that you can swing through the Schumacher S. You might need a little breathe on the throttle, so any too wide situations are going to cost both of you gobs of time. Then you're flying towards Michelin. If you were able to hold close to the car ahead through the fast corners, you've got a chance to try and pass into here. However, it's better to keep from swinging too wide to help your line through Bilstein. This right-hander is all important because of the long uphill stretch that comes after it. Some slipstreaming might occur, and once you hit the braking for the Vidal chicane, don't be surprised if someone goes on the attack. But try not to stay wheel-to-wheel because it's tight and these curbs are very tall. After that, you get a short burst up to Coca-Cola. This is a long hairpin that rewards a late apex with it leading back onto the pit straight. Avoid a poor exit so that you don't have your opponents breathing down your neck back to the first turn. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around the Nürburgring. You see a little bit of a sunnier lap there while we drove the GSRC car around here. It's quite dark this morning time that they're having the race and qualifying in. But before we get to that darkness, let's talk about a bright spot that the PRL Formula 3 Series is brought to you by Apex Button Box. This season, all drivers who complete at least 8 races will be entered into a random drawing to receive a free button box. It is Apex Button Box's goal to be able to provide an affordable, reliable button box to those who do not have the time or materials to create their own. To find out how you can get your hands on one, check them out at facebook.com/apexbuttonbox. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this season. And with a new season comes potentially new viewers, Taylor. So why don't you run down real quick what exactly we're looking at for today's race?
Of course. Well, this is a brand new season, of course, so it's a 10-race season that we see as we're now kicking off the season for the PRL Formula 3 cars, as we see on screen behind the race details. This setup is a fixed setup series, so the iRacing setup that we use, the baseline, will be used for the rest of the season. Of course, one of the specialties with this series is that 50% fuel, so there will be a required pit stop in this race. Of course, the race length is a 45-minute sprint race, so these drivers are going to have to go all out in this short period of time. And then, of course, as always with most of the PRL series, there is an incident cap, which means off tracks, contact with the barriers or with another car or spinning out could rack up those incident points and could cause you to be either disqualified or worse, you could end up losing out of the race big time, especially if you're up towards the front. So another thing that, though, Joe, is that interesting about this season, is that each driver is part of a 3-car team for the team's championship. And I tell you what, that is quite an interesting story to talk about this season.
Certainly will change the nature of that team's championship, as it was 2 drivers previously. We're watching qualifying, but before we get to that, of course, we want to have a quick mention that, of course, this broadcast is, as always, brought to you by the iRacing Esports Network. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure and click on the big red button that says subscribe on their YouTube page. Then you'll get all of the PRL Formula 3 series in its maiden season in your YouTube feed. Of course, up at the top, we do have some familiar faces from the Radicals. Eric Luke is up there. We see Federico Montini. Drivers like Overbay and File have been doing a little bit better in the warm-up than they have been in qualifying here, but they still look to be contenders. But up at the top, Taylor, this is a name we've been discussing. Newcomer from Texas giving a go at this. David Holland has the provisional pole.
Yeah, and by a very good margin of almost 0.4 of a second separate him and Eric Luke right now in qualifying. They were a little bit closer in practice earlier today, but I tell you what, right now, David Holland is someone to be looking on as far as a newcomer who could take the fight to some of these former champions.
Watching Eric Luke on screen, he's actually got half a second up to David Holland. And that's a pretty big margin, even at a track like this where lap times are close to 2 minutes long. So the Florida drivers got some work to do. Andre Espinosa comes back and puts it up within the top 3 for the time being.
Yeah, not too far from him either is going to also be David Cristelli. He's doing a great job currently in that 009, currently sitting in the 4th position. He's going to be a driver to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the season, as he is definitely showing quite a bit of speed.
We got one familiar face that I don't recall racing in this series previously, but has come on over. Kevin Santana, who we see very often in the Autobahn series, the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge. The 666 car is actually doing incredibly well here. He's up to 7th, as it looks like he's going to abandon that lap, so he clearly wasn't happy. He's got 5 more minutes, so he has time to jump back out, which he does.
Yeah, spent a little bit of time actually on the bigger track on Monday night with the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge, so he's decided to come back and hop behind the wheel of an open wheel car to take on the shorter version of the Grand Prix course.
And looks like Eric Luke has closed that gap significantly. The front row is now only separated by just shy of 0.2. The number 13 car with a 1:47.693 last time by. That will help things be a little bit more competitive. Eric Luke, kind of notorious for being so close to wins and only getting a couple over the few seasons we had in the Radical. Very much typically the bridesmaid. We'll see if that changes things once we now have open wheels and no fenders on the cars. Maybe that'll help him out a little bit and open things up. Overbay still struggling, though, down there, and let's see, he is down in 10th position.
Yeah, and looks like he's struggling just a little bit, the Ohio Club driver, about 1.2 seconds off the pole time. Now dropped down to 11th position right now. He's got to find a way to get the speed as he's going up right now through the Schumacher S's. He's got to find a little bit of speed in that geodesic Formula 3 car. Otherwise, he's going to have a rough night tonight here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it's been bumped down to 11th, so he's out of the top 10 even. He's got to hustle because he'll only get about 2 more laps in, I think, from what we're seeing on time left. Checking through, see if we got any other newcomers here with the new car in. A lot of familiar faces, though. Takeshi Kita usually races here in the PRL very often. Owen McLaughlin is back. Lyndon Swaby, Andy Spicer returns. Scotty Zerk. So plenty of drivers have decided that it doesn't matter if it's the Radical or the F3. They're going to give it a shot here on Thursday nights. Overbay does bump himself up to 6th. That looks a little bit more representative of what we've seen from him in the past. He's still on the 3rd row, so he's got a few cars to overtake. But here's our provisional pole sitter. Also, once again, we see a driver not happy with it.
Christian Gritzko, another returning driver right now, currently sitting in the 12th position, trying to find that little bit of extra speed to maybe try to break into the top 10. He has enough time to at least complete this lap and maybe one more. It just depends on how much time he has when he crosses the line. But I tell you what, that driver, from watching him previous seasons in the Radicals, has some good starts, but also towards the end cannot sometimes close the deal. So maybe, like with some of the other drivers, these open wheel cars can help better suit these drivers in these kind of conditions.
Yeah, Gritzko, I'd say much like what we saw with Overbay, probably should get that car a little higher in qualifying, unless he just isn't as good here in the Formula 3. We watch from on board as he flies his way up towards the MGK chicane. This is one of those spots we expect to be a little bit of a trouble point for these cars. They certainly seem twitchy through here, Taylor.
Yeah, it is a very difficult corner. Very difficult when it comes to braking in that section. If you brake a little bit too hard, that car will break loose on you. I was out on the track earlier during this practice session just to get a feel for what these cars and these drivers will have to go through. And I tell you what, it's amazing of how well these cars are able to be controlled by these drivers. I mean, I had a tough time just making it through some of the parts of the track in these cars.
Gritzko managed to get himself up to 7th, just behind Overbay. And, oh, it looks like Eric Luke has exited out. He must have had an incident or something, because that means he will not be able to take pole away from Holland, who also has called it quits when they still have a minute left, but they do not have enough time to get a in-lap, or an out-lap, rather, on the car and get it going.
Daniel Ziggers isn't still out on track. He's currently sitting in the 4th position. He's going to try to see if he can find a way to get towards the pole. His next opponent that he's trying to beat is Jefferson Padovani, sitting in that 3rd position. And it looks like it's not going to be a fast enough lap as he's coming out of the Coca-Cola curve. And it's going to be over 2 minutes by the looks of it.
Might be on an out lap for him. We've switched over to Tyler Gore, who is down in 24th. His fastest is a 150.3. He's coming around Coca-Cola. Let's see what he's got underneath him. The timing line is very quick after the final corner. A 50.31 compared to 50.36. So it's an improvement for Gore, but not in position on track, unfortunately, with such small margins. Looks like qualifying just finished up, though. Jefferson Padovani, who sits in 3rd, is coming out of the Mercedes arena. He's still got this last lap to try and get himself onto the front row. Who else do we have finishing up, though? Looks like Kevin Santana's going to cross the line here in just a moment. He's in 11th, and he improves to 148.3. That's good enough for 7th place for Santana. Nice jump.
Very nice jump indeed for Santana. I think he might have something for these drivers in the open wheel community. Mark Oliveira's got a slow lap. He will not be able to improve his lap. So looking through the feet, as it looks like Scotty Zerk is going to abandon his lap.
Yeah,
Daniel Barnett, I think, it's the next driver up.
Yeah, I think Scotty Zerk got held up by a spin that happened in front of him. Daniel Barnett is the next one through. You're right. He's down in 28th out of 31 cars that have put a lap in. We'll see how many actually grid up. A 52.2 is an improvement by about 0.2 of a second. Looks like Zegers is going to come across the line. He's sitting in 4th. Let's see what this holds for him. Ooh, and he does not go faster on his final lap. Cristelli spins, so that's it for him. Tyler Gore coming around. We're running out of cars left.
Danny Duchesne just spun out of the NGK chicane, so he will not be able to improve his lap time. Trying to see, I think Oliveira might try another lap here. If he has enough time, though. Nope, he abandons his lap.
Gore puts a slightly better lap in, but it looks like he still will be in 24th place, and he's actually the last one to cross the line. So that means our grid is set. It's time to go through your starting order for the very first race of the PRL Formula 3 series. David Holland takes the inaugural pole with Eric Luke next to him. Jefferson Padovani, one of our former champions when this was the Radical series, will start on the second row to the inside. Then it's Daniel Zegers in P4, followed by Federico Montini in 5th. Andre Espinoza will be starting P6, and then Kevin Santana hops over from those GTE cars, or excuse me, the GT3 cars, I should say, in Autobahn, here to the F3 with great aplomb, and he starts 7th. Michael Overbay behind him in 8th. He'll have some overtaking to do if he wants to take a victory. Christian Gritzko will be 9th, and then the outside of row 5 has Francisco Montini there. Taylor?
Starting in 11th will be David Cristelli, followed by Mark Feil in the 12th position. Jerome Murfion will start in the 13th position, with Christopher Richards alongside him in 14th. Marco Oliveira will start in 15th position alongside Andrew Spicer in 16th. Lyndon Swaby will start in 17th position alongside Jose Malbron in 18th. Paul Wildridge will start 19th, and Owen McLaughlin will round out your top 20.
Takeshi Kita starts 21st with Matthew Gunderson in 22nd. Then it's Aaron Webb, P23. Tyler Gore will start in 24th. Danny Duchesne in 25th. Mike Richter on the outside of him in 26th. Phil Gilman 27th, and Daniel Barnett 28th. Joe Walker starts 29th. Top 30 rounded out by Craig Holden. The last of the drivers to get a time in is Scotty Zerk in 31st. Then you've got Jay Steffi, 32nd. Charles Sumner, 33rd. And Ronald McManus rounding out the 34-car fields. And I see everybody still in the session, so we expect everybody to get out there and try to race here in this opening round. Lining up on the grid on this cool, cloudy day, only 68 degrees on the track surface, so they should have plenty of grip. Question is everybody going to be used to how this car behaves in a pack around each other? I understand that these cars relatively similar in terms of weight to power ratio to that old Radical, so no surprise that we're seeing some familiar faces up towards the top. Just waiting for Lyndon Swaby to get out there. He'll be the last one, and then we get to go racing here for 45 minutes. See, it's quite a few cars that are going to be taking part once we get the green flag. Lights are up. Green flag is out here at the Nürburgring. David Holland gets a great jump, and it's a horrible start for second place driver Eric Luke, already being overtaken by Padovani around the outside as they come down into the Haug hook. Can he get it back? A little bit of a checkup, and cars are actually getting into each other.
Yeah, that was Michael Overbay who got up a little bit on two wheels. By the looks of it, that was Francisco Montini who got into the back of him as they're now coming out of the Mercedes arena. Oh, as another car spun out, Takeshi Kita.
A little bit of a sloppy start. I saw a few cars that looked like they got a slow start off the line as well when I looked back there. I'll have to check and see if we can get a replay of that later. Meanwhile, it is still Holland up in the lead, and Padovani held on to second place as Luke slots back into third. Zegers still in fourth since the start, with Montini rounding out your top 5 to hit the Dunlop hairpin for the first time.
And look at that run that Padavani's got. He's going to try to go to the inside route, but cannot close the deal. He's now going to follow suit as they make the climb up the Schumacher S's. This is the great area to gain a lot of time on your competitors because this is a little bit of a rhythm section. You have to be careful to hit your marks as best you can. A slow exit out of there could cost you a valuable time and a lot of positions.
Oof, Padavani not just dispensing with Luke, but already trying to run down Holland. He got close to him by the time they got to Bilstein, but starts to fall back slightly. Now the draft reels him in as they come up to the NGK chicane, and he is very strong on the brakes. Look at him gain on our leader, David Holland. I think David might have a threat underneath him if he doesn't watch out.
I mean, look at that. It was amazing to see how close of a gap he was able to pull when they were going into the NGK chicanes. I mean, that was almost amazing to where I almost thought he would have hit the rear end of David Holland.
Go back to 9th position. Christopher Richards being chased by Andy Spicer. They come down back to the first corner for the second time. Spicer, though, not looking to attempt anything quite yet. He stays in line behind Richards.
Francisco Montini tried to go the long way around, looks like Jose Malbron, as they were coming out of Haug Hook into the Mercedes arena. He lost quite a little bit of time right now into the clutches of Mark Feil. He is getting ready to be passed by.
We got a little train back here in the mid-pack for sure. Not just Montini and Feil, but they've got Aaron Webb, Danny Duchesne, David Cristelli, and Phil Guillaumin going all the way back to 18th place. So looking at Danny Duchesne, who's a little sandwiched here. That's Cristelli behind him. Aaron Webb in front as they swing it through the heavily banked Dunlop hairpin. Ooh, bad exit though from Duchesne, it looked like, Taylor.
Yeah, he's going to lose a lot of time right there. David Cristelli gaining some time. He's going to try to take a peek. He's going to get in that slipstream right now. Let's see what he is able to do. He backs off. He decides not to push the exit. Oh, we see Duchesne make loose out there, and there's contact.
That was Cristelli.
Got a little bit of wing.
Yep. Just tipped him. Not sure how hard they hit. Let's watch the replay on that just to get a second look at it.
Yeah, that was coming out of Michelin right there, and it was amazing. 4 cars did not get involved with that incident.
The rear just starts to snap around pretty quickly. Didn't look like there was much saving that car.
No, it's very difficult to gain control back of these cars once they snap loose like that. It's amazing he was able just to keep it out of any barriers, just put it in the grass and then pull back out on track. He's now dropped back to 21st position right now. So he had a little bit of a, actually no, 31st by the looks of it, or 21st.
21st, it seems. Cristelli continues on P16 after that, but we're not sure how much damage he has on the front wing. Let's take a glance to see if there was any damage on there.
No damage,
Yeah,
surprisingly.
He got very lucky. As all this was happening, we understand that Swaby had a big accident that we missed. I think we've got a replay for that. Let's take a look at that.
I believe another driver who's took it behind the wall is Kevin Santana as well. Ooh, right there.
On his lid. Was that Dunlop, or where did this happen here?
That looks like around Michelin.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Schumacher
right.
S's. Ooh, got in the gravel right there, and then hard contact, and then I don't know what that other car right there.
Someone else had an off, it looked like, just behind him. We'll find out who that was, but definitely made contact. Made things all the worse. Oh, and Overbay is got some sort of problem. I just saw him lose multiple positions. He's in a hell of a battle with Andy Spicer and Montini behind him. Spicer starts to lose it, spins to the inside as both cars just squeak by. Woo! That was Montini, who we're watching still continuing to try to overtake Overbay. Let's see, looks to the inside, down into the Haug Hook. He's on the brakes. He's got car just a bit to the inside, but not enough as it looks like Overbay is going to hold on to that.
I don't know. Montini got a good run as they come out of Haukuk into the Mercedes arena. It's just he has nowhere to pass at this time as he hugs the apron of the corner right there coming out of the Mercedes arena.
Looks like he's settled it down a little bit for now. If we've got the opportunity, I'd love to see him on board.
He was able to get control.
Yep, it looks like he's good. I'd love to see an onboard of Montini's perspective with Spicer's spin in front of him, because that was awful close and he threaded the needle between the Armco and that car. Looks like we might be able to spool it up here. Let's see. Looks like this is just after the incident. We are on board Montini. This is as he was taking a look. Here we go.
Ooh, right. Oh, wow.
That was a great angle for that right there.
That just showed how close it was between Montini and that Armco barrier. I mean, that's impressive driving right there.
So we're watching Federico Montini, who continues in 10th position, still behind Overbay, who must have lost a position somewhere because he started in 8th. I did mention that he was in the midst of a battle just as we were going to him, and it was in the NGK chicane. I'm still not quite sure what happened. We'll have to go back and check that later. Up in 6th position, we got a change between Gritsko and Bertome. Gritsko to the inside, down to the Haukuk, and he gets it done.
It makes a great pass right there out of Haukuk, but it goes a little bit wide as they go through the Mercedes arena. You got to be careful not to hit that green patch through that area. That car will easily lose control and spin out through that section of the course.
Lots of action here at the start. And we're only 5 laps into this thing. We haven't mentioned that. This is a timed race. We've got 36 minutes left, but the 25 should be accurate to the number of laps we expect to happen. On the 7th car of Jerome, looking ahead, he's lost a fair bit of time to Gritsko, it looks like. Taylor, he's already 8 tenths behind.
Yeah, he has lost quite a bit of time right now. He could maybe gain a little bit through the Schumacher S's, but right now he's just keeping it steady at the moment as they make the run to Michelin.
And he's already under threat because that's Richards to his inside. We can't quite see it. Now we can see him as they go 3 wide, and that is Michael Overbay going through the middle, getting a 2-for-1. That moves him up to 7th place, but this is not over. They're coming up to the NGK chicane. Federico Montini now getting involved. He gets 1 spot. He looks for another with Richards, and then a cut course for Michael Overbay as he overshoots the chicane. He tries to pull off the racing line to give it back. It is a cluster back here. He's still handing time back as Richards now goes by. Federico Montini is going to get him, but I think he'll get the bleeding to stop before Bertome manages to overtake.
He's going to try as he comes back up onto the racing line as they go down into Haukuk. I believe looks like Jose Maldron will try to look to the inside of Jerome, but he's not going to be able to close the deal right now as they come up towards the Mercedes arena.
Look at Malbrun back there, making a sneaky move on Jerome. He was trying for an overtake, but it didn't go off. Meanwhile, we've had an incident with Daniel Barnett, and I think this was in Coca-Cola involving Danny Duchesne. Ooh, Duchesne's not having a good race here.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, he's been showing some decent pace, but just cannot seem to hold that car together a little bit right now. As we now see our leaders also getting ready to go through lap traffic. They just passed Tyler Gore.
We're on replay right now. This is with Daniel Barnett. Oh, he came from a long way back, to be fair. You can see he almost turned over Danny Duchesne, and that was Charlie Sumner who had to squeak through very slowly. Not until he was overtaken by Jay Steffi.
Oh, what a contact right there.
Great heads up, though, by Sumner to avoid that incident. Heading back up to the top 5, Espinoza and Zegers fighting for 4th position. They've fallen off of our leaders by a significant amount. It's about 6 seconds to the next cars up.
Yeah, but still a nice little battle between Espinosa's and...
Oops, sorry, we had a change for the lead. Holland just got overtaken by Padavani into the first corner. Let's take a look at how this happened. This is... Oh, I think we're just after it here. We need to back up a little bit more. There we go. Wow, he just mugged him. Look at that.
Great overtaking there by Padavani. I mean, just snuck one right by, it looks like, of Holland.
So Holland hasn't given it up. He's still within half a second. So that race is still on. And they didn't lose too much to Luke behind them, who's been giving chase. He's roughly 2 seconds back in 3rd, but kind of all on his lonesome. There you can see him in the background, just glances of that red and black car.
Yeah, but he's still within striking distance if something were to happen to the top 2 front runners right now as they're coming into Michelin. Padavani has a nice line, goes through there, as we see Holland takes it a little bit wide, but still is able to keep that gap just about the same.
Got to step away from this because it's really heated up back here between Overbay and Montini. Overbay is going to go to the inside of Federico down into Michelin. Can he keep it in his hands, though? Almost shoves him off the road. Might not have been aware that Montini was trying to pull the over-under. Now he's got a real good run, though, on Overbay as he gets the draft coming up the long stretch towards the final chicane. Overbay is going to guard him off to the inside. Montini's not giving up. 2 into 1 does not go. Both of them cut the course after coming together. And does this give the spot to Richards? I think it should. No, not yet. Overbay's got to give that time back, I would think. There he goes.
And it looks like Montini's not done yet. He's got a run coming out of Coca-Cola. I think he was able to give up that time as they're now going into Hog Hook. Down into the inside, we see Montini go. Still going nose to tail. Oh, almost gets into the back bumper of Christopher Richards as they make the run up to the Mercedes Arena.
Montini manages to get away from it. Oh, but the damage on these cars must be hurting them because already Malbron is trying to get by Overbay, and Michael looks to be limping. They got to remember, Taylor, these are open wheel cars. They don't have all kinds of protection for the tires and suspension like the Radicals did.
Yeah, it can't really be beating and banging like in the Radical series. You have to take these cars a little bit more delicate, but I don't think they read the memo on that with these cars. They have been really wheel to wheel and banging wheels pretty much the entire race for the most part. Surprisingly, not a lot of issues.
Oh, and Montini's not out of the woods because Richards just got by him. He's staying with it. Excuse me. Richards got by earlier when he had the slowdown, so he's going to have a peek on him down in a Michelin. Nothing doing there. Stays with it. They've dropped Malbron behind them, who did get by Michael Overbay. Federico with a nice run. Comes up behind him. Doesn't get covered off like last time. Breaking down into the corner. This time 2 into 1 does look like it might work. Oh, Richards gets held up.
Yeah, Richards had to check up big time in order not to get into the back bumper of Montini. But what a great pass we saw by Montini. Almost did lose it a little bit, though, going into the NGK chicanes.
And that slowed them up significantly because Malbron caught them. But up ahead, a battle between Zegers and Espinosa rages on for P4. Currently being held down by Daniel in the number 8 machine.
Oh, he gets loose. Oh, what a save right there.
Wow, but it's certainly not helping his momentum because look at this. Here comes Espinosa around the outside as they come to Valvoline, and he makes it stick. That was brave.
Great pass indeed by Espinosa as they're now making the run down towards the forward curve. It's going to be interesting to see if Zegers can respond into Dunlop, but he's too far back right now as he gets late into the brakes into the Dunlop curve.
I tell you what, our spotter had some concerns with Jefferson Padavani a little bit earlier because he thought he was working his brakes too hard. but Jefferson just set the fastest lap of the race now that he's been freed up. Now, he hasn't shaken Holland, we should point out. He's still hanging on to him, but it does look like that Jefferson maybe was being held up a little bit by the 18.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, but I'm wondering though, is he going to be able to still have enough brakes? I mean, he has been using a lot of brakes through that, especially when he was battling for that lead position when we saw that with Holland. So that's something we got to maybe consider later on down the road.
And Holland is looking incredibly close to him now. Does he have a go at him, or does he wait in line? He's looking to the inside as they come down to the Haug hook. This time it's Holland who's deep on the brakes. He does make the apex, and he's given space there by Padavani. It switches back for the second switch around this race. David Holland, now your leader. Padavani giving chase, takes a little bit of a look into the third part of the Mercedes arena, but nothing doing there. Oh, and a switchback carries his speed well. Covered off on the inside by David Holland. Just a bit ago, we saw him move around the outside. Is it going to work a second time? And it does.
What a pass. I tell you what, Padavani has a lot of skills. This club Brazilian driver is by far an amazing talent in the Radicals and an amazing talent in this Formula 3 car, though. But I think David Holland might have something to respond about, though, as they come out of Dunlop.
Certainly does. Look at him gain. Oh, he thought about trying to go too wide through the Schumacher S. I didn't think that would work out well. But this is actually what Eric Luke is loving, is all this back and forth battling, because he was 2.5 seconds back half a lap ago. It is now down to 1.3. If they don't watch out, he is going to join the party and is going to be a three-way fight for first.
And that's what we like to see, battling for the lead lap after lap, switching positions, one corner after the other, as they make the run to the NGK chicanes. Holland stays in line, does not push the issue, but Eric Luke gains a lot of time late into the braking zone as they come out of there going into Coca-Cola.
And we had a change for fourth. Behind them, Daniel Zegers just managed to, Espinoza managed to overtake Zegers and gets by in the NGK chicane just behind them. That is Gritzko as they come up to Coca-Cola.
Had a big wiggle right there as we see them battling back at it again before they go down the front straightaway towards Haug hook. You see Espinoza guarding to the inside as Zegers going to have to take the long way around down into Haug hook, laid into the break. Both of them go, seeing who can outbrake them the first. And this might give the opportunity for Zegers to take the inside line into the Mercedes arena and now move him back into fourth.
Espinoza loses out. Just can't seem to make it stick on Zegers. He's been fending off for this fourth place pretty much the entire race. And he's going to have to fend off two of them with Gritzko now riding the rear wing of the 87. Watching from on board just over the suspension of Christian. 28 certainly had the best seat in the house for this battle. Now that it's cooled down, he doesn't seem as intent to get by. He's got the pace to stay with him when there's no battle. He certainly looks good on Espinoza. Zegers starting to play slightly.
Look at that run that we see Gritzko get coming out of the Schumacher S's. He might take a look to the inside of the Michelin curve. He's inside still there. Oh, almost contact right there. Great effort of watching out for that situation to not escalate as they make the run towards the NGK chicanes.
Whew, yeah, Gritzko very nearly washing out and getting into Espinoza. But this continues to give the advantage to Zegers. He's now up to 1.2 seconds ahead of the 87.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Joe. The battle for the lead is kind of breaking off, but Eric Luke, he's closed quite the gap, even more so between him and Padavani as they're coming up out of Haug hook into the Mercedes arena. It's a couple of car lengths separating the two of them right now, but still a lot closer than it was a few laps ago.
We just about 50 seconds ago, we had an incident with Tyler Gore, who was lap traffic. He actually got hit by one of the leaders, and it was David Cristelli. That cost him positions. Let's watch the replay. This is out of the Schumacher S. It'll happen out of Bilstein, so we'll see it here in a moment. You can see Gore's trying not to get too much in the way, and then suddenly a little contact from behind, and around he goes.
Unfortunate. As we go on board from Tyler Gore from the rear end, there we see. Ooh, there's the contact from Castelli.
Yeah, contact, yeah. And it looks like we've had some pit stops. Michael Overbay has been in and out. Mark Feil has already taken his stop there, 19th, 21st, respectively. Looks like recently we've had Wildridge, Gunderson, Barnett, and Gore also pit.
Well, Michael Overbay is currently the leader as far as those who have made a pit stop, so we'll have to keep track and see what he's able to accomplish before the rest of the field does come down pit road. We expect maybe see some of these cars pit was probably around right about between now and a lap 18 or so. So it's going to be a matter of time before we see the front runners come down pit road.
Already trying to overtake some traffic.
Christopher Richard loses it in the NGK chicanes. Able to gain control of the car.
Let's take a look at the replay here. He was all by himself, really. He had Melbron ahead of him, but it doesn't look like he affected this at all.
No, he just loops it around right there, coming out of there. And since he's right near pit road, he decides it's a good time to make a pit stop, get some fresh tires, fuel, back out on track.
He's joined by Andy Spicer, who we saw, I'm pretty sure Andy hit the wall, the inside of Coca-Cola, quite a few laps ago. One thing we should point out, because with a lot of these cars pitting early, Taylor, is they don't have any spare cars. So I guess pitting early still allows you to repair the damage, but I mean, they're not coming in because they feel like they can get a fresh car and get going once again.
No, unfortunately not. It's pretty much you break it, you bought it, or you have to either put it behind the wall for these drivers who have too much damage to their Formula 3 cars. So it's only going to be a matter of time and just keeping the car on the pavement and not making any contact.
So for a while, we watched Padovani climbing all over the gearbox of Holland, and it seems like he's backed off. Do you think this is intentional, or do you think he's maybe used the car up here?
Possibly a little bit of both. He might have realized he's been using the car a little bit too much through this race right now, trying to see if he can save a little bit of tires, maybe save a little bit of fuel in order to put less fuel in when he comes down pit road.
Sorry to interrupt. Daniel Zagers has finally given up the ghost, and that is because he has wrecked. He held off Espinosa so valiantly, and it was a self-made error coming out of Bilstein that cost him. See it as we ride, looking just over the shoulders of number 8.
Ooh, just hits that curbing.
And you could see lost his nose out of that. So definitely had to come in for a stop. The question is, did he hurt the suspension at all, and how hard he got into the tires? Naturally, immediately comes in.
No noses on the car right now, so they're definitely going to have to do a nose adjustment, and there's probably going to be quite a bit of suspension damage to the car. Ooh, right there we see a good angle. Going to need a little plastic surgery on that car.
Unfortunately, a little bit more Michael Jackson than Barbra Streisand right now. So we come back to the lead. Jefferson Padovani has closed it in. It was up to 0.8 of a second. It is now 0.5 between himself and David Holland.
He's taking his time right now, not really pushing the limit, but still letting him know that he is right there, that if Holland makes a mistake, Padovani will be there to capitalize on it as they come out of Coca-Cola down the front straightaway towards Haug Hook. Let's see what they're able to do if they decide to come down within the next lap or two.
So they complete yet one more lap. We're past halfway into this race. There's only 19 minutes left, so pit window is getting towards the end. I expect we'll start to see more and more drivers in. Aaron Webb down the order from something. You know, I'm starting to see a trend here now that I watch this replay. This is coming out of Dunlop. And Taylor, does this look familiar?
Oh, very much so. Right there, into the curbing, over the gravel trap. Maybe not as hard contact as we saw from the previous incident, but still, a little bit of suspension.
Yeah, it seems like those corner exits, if you get a curb, it looks like these cars are just diabolical.
Yeah, curbs are not friends to these open wheel cars, especially look at the side of the curbing right there. That we get a good angle right there as we watch Aaron Webb come around them.
Webb's pitting right now, but we switch over to 8th position. Francisco Montini leading a trio. That's Cristelli and Bertone behind him. They come out of Ford down towards to Dunlop. Still quite a few cars still running out on track. 31 of them, I believe. I should make that 30 because I think Zegers has not re-entered the track, and I'm not sure that he will be able to. Also getting word that that looks like, from what we can tell, Eric Luke did not take tires. That was something we were wondering about, Taylor, is whether or not tires will be part of the pit stop strategy.
Some may decide to take tires, some may decide not to. It's a matter of what would be best, short run gain or a long run opportunity. So drivers are going to need to figure out this opportunity before they even consider coming down pit road as quickly as possible in order to figure out what's best suited for them. I may be surprised if we may even see some of our leaders in the top 5 consider even just taking pole.
Sorry, misread my information. Eric Luke is not pitted yet. Meanwhile, on screen, that is Mike Richter, who was lap traffic for Holland and Padovani, who's closed things up. But unfortunately for Holland, no opportunity.
Yeah, Padovani, as we see one of the lap cars quickly get out of the way. That was Phil Guillaumin. They're coming out of Dunlop.
Things are tightened up at the top. Eric Luke as well, weaving through the traffic, but loses out the worst out of the 3. Swung back to 1.5 seconds. We're on board with Holland as he rides in the tire tracks of the Brazilian Padovani. Former Thursday night champion Jefferson comes back. We'll have to ask him if he plans to do a full season this time around. Didn't get to see him compete in every round last time. Yet more traffic in front of them. Aaron Webb, and he definitely holds up Jefferson through the chicane.
This might be an opportunity where we see both our leaders come down pit road. Let's see about Eric Luke. He as well. So our top 3 comes down pit road. Now it's going to be who's going to get off it fastest. Onto the pit limiter as they go. Eric Luke does a great job of speeding up just to make sure, but I think he might have gotten caught speeding just about.
Looks like a lot of drivers coming in at this point. This must be very close to the end of the pit window. Eric Luke looking for his stall. Riding on board with Holland. He's our pole sitter, so his should be easy to find all the way up to the front. Gritzko has pitted. Well, is pitting, rather. Holland out, but after Padovani.
Padovani really quick on that pit stop. I don't even think it was less than a couple of seconds, actually. Great job. He must feel like it just fuels and go on back out on track. And he has quite the lead right there as they're coming out of the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, that was a big jump with that pit stop. And it looks like Padovani about half a second faster in his stall. But we are seeing only fuel. Looks like it's so quick, there's just not enough time to get tires on these cars.
Yeah, looking at the pit stop time, it looks like to be about a 4.5 second pit stop.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the comparison on their pit stops, just to see how the two of them look compared to each other. There looks like everything really came down to the time in stall.
It just shows incredibly how well they were able to judge the correct amount of fuel to put in the car to get back out on track as quickly as possible. So great
We don't know
effort.
if they've judged it right yet or not.
True.
They might be finding that out along with us, with this being the first round. And wow, things just have not worked out for Holland, because he also had to deal with traffic. Malbron, who has not pitted yet and just now pits, had to be overtaken by Holland.
Looks like Espinosa's coming into pit road. He's going to take his pit stop, along with, it looks like, about a couple of other cars as well. That looks like Jose Malbron, along with maybe Federico Montini as well, and Francisco Montini. So the rest of our field's coming down pit road as we speak.
Yep, this has got to be it. This is where the train stops, and you have to come in, try and refuel if you want to get to the end of this race. Espinosa back out in P4, but just barely. This is our current leader, Jefferson Padovani, 1.5 seconds over Holland. Now, before, we speculated that Padovani was the quicker of the two and was being held up. Then he fell back behind as Holland retook it, and he struggled for a little while to get ahead once again. Now that he pulled himself a gap, this will be telling, as he locks him up slightly into Dunlop and goes way wide there, Taylor.
That was something that Jefferson did not need to have happen. Thankfully, he does have enough of a gap over Holland to where it wouldn't be that much of a serious mistake. Although as they make the climb up to Schumacher S's, I think we see Holland get a better run coming out of there, and he is going to be closing that gap very quickly.
Yeah, if he makes mistakes, he'll certainly be caught by David, who we ride on board with. Now that pit stops have finished, looks like we've been joined by one of the drivers that has unfortunately left a little bit early. Kevin Santana has hopped into the booth with us. First round in the new F3 car here for the PRL series, and you've jumped over from the Autobahn series. Kevin, what's your take now in cars without fenders?
Yeah, don't put a GT driver in an open wheel car that does a standing start. It's not good.
So did you have problems at the start? Is that what plagued you?
Yeah, I forgot to put it in gear.
Ooh, well, yeah, that's kind of critical, unfortunately. As on screen, we're watching this battle between Espinosa and Gritsko. Do you plan to keep coming back, though, for the rest of the season? Because I understand that there's a button box, potentially, if you get 8 rounds in.
Oh, yeah, I plan on running the whole season.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully we'll see you fare a little bit better. It certainly seemed like you had the pace in practice, so best of luck to you next week.
Well, thank you. I was a little surprised by my pace, honestly.
Well, that's a good surprise, I suppose. That was Kevin Santana, who has already DNF'd in this race. Gritsko continuing to hound Espinosa for 4th, though. Watching from just underneath Gritsko's nose.
Yeah, looking at it right now, Espinosa is still trying to complete his final outlap right now. Gritsko doing the best he can. He has hotter temperatures in the tires right now, while Espinosa's just got off pit road of the previous lap, so he's got to figure out a way. Oh. Montini has some problems right now.
Let's see what happened to Francisco. This is bizarre. He spins just as another car spins. Actually, it's both Montini. It's both Montini spin in the same corner in the same way.
Oh, the two brothers felt sorry for each other, so I think it looks like maybe Federico decided to spin.
Now, I always like to clarify, iRacing does not have oil on the track or anything like that. It does sometimes have loose conditions because you can get dust on the track, but we don't see anything like that out there. And it's not a place that collects marbles. So I am baffled as to why both had the exact same thing happen.
I think maybe with Francisco Montini, when he saw that car off course, it might have startled him a little bit to where he might have decided he could have just overcorrected the car to avoid contact.
Meanwhile, that has caused a little bit of a battle that we can see on screen. Federico Montini sandwiched in between Bertone and Richards. This is for 8th position.
Well, they're coming across the line right now to complete lap 20 towards How Hook they go. Montini's still trying to hold that line as best he can, but Richards going to take a look to the inside. I think Montini is going to back off a little bit. Oh, as we see Richards lose it, and another car is off.
That's Daniel Barnett. That's a lapped car. But under braking, Christopher Richards loops it around, and what could have been an overtake turns into lost spots. Let's take a look at that one more time.
Had a great early part of the overtaking, but just I think you might have clipped the curb again right here going into How Hook.
No, that car was coming around right away.
Right, yeah, actually right before the apex of the corner, so just lost it under braking.
Maybe locked up the rears a little bit. And unfortunately, that puts him down in 11th. Now, as all this has been going on, Taylor, the leaders have closed in on each other. Jefferson Padavani is only 0.5 of a second ahead of Holland. And I understand that some of this is due to traffic.
Yeah, lap traffic has been playing a major play between the leaders as there's right in front of the leaders. There's a car off, and he's coming right back, almost on track before the leaders get there. Thankfully, he stops and holds the brake and lets him by. But it's been a major factor with these drivers. When they catch up to that lap traffic, that causes the driver behind them to just gain a little bit of more time and even have a chance to utilize the lap traffic cars as a pick to make a maneuver to get back up towards the front of the field.
Richter is actually in a battle for position with Duchesne currently. And right behind them is third place Eric Luke, who is wishing they would disappear. Looks like he's going to be given the spot by Duchesne. Duchesne being nicely polite when he could have tried to fight for the spot and realizing the top cars are coming through. And then one more. That was Richter, who we were talking about. Oh, and we got to jump away from this because the 18 has now caught the 69.
And he is on a tear as they come down the NGK towards the NGK chicanes, utilizing the slipstream right there. Late into the braking zone they go. Both of them keeping it as best they can to the apex of each section of the chicanes as they make the run to Coca-Cola. I mean, this is probably going to be a great season watching these two battle it out.
Certainly seems like it. They look like the ones to beat, and he's in the slipstream down the front stretch. Padavani trying to pull a slipstream from Tyler Gore ahead of him just to get every little ounce of speed he can, and it looks like it's going to work for now because there's no attempt from Holland down into the How Cook. Yet more traffic in front of them in the form of Charles Sumner, and Sumner is in 18th, so they have lapped pretty much half the field at this point. Sumner actually slows down and lets them through.
Very smart move by Sumner to let the leaders get by as quickly as possible, especially through that difficult part of the Mercedes arena. So very smart move by Sumner's.
Watching from onboard David once again. We are down to 6 minutes left to go in this 45-minute race. They have absolutely dropped Eric Luke. It is 7.7 seconds back to the third place car. So it is down to these two to duke it out and figure out who is going to take away victory. About the only hope for Eric is if they tangle, which, as hard as they've been fighting, Taylor, I wouldn't put it past them that it comes down to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Also, you got to throw to the fact is Padavani, who had a very short pit stop and could also maybe not have put enough fuel in the car. So we have to throw that factor in as well.
He's got a great run here. He's going to get the slipstream once more. Is this enough for him to poke his nose in? He gets it down to about a car length. Coming up behind him, no, it is not enough. David's going to hold back.
I don't think he will make a pass into the NGK chicanes this early. Now, if this was towards a 2 laps to go or a lap to go, most likely we could see that possibly happen. But right now, it's still a little early. Anything can possibly happen between these drivers as they come across the line with about 3 laps to go.
Boy, he is being a royal headache for Padavani. And he breaks late. I think there was ghost contact there, too. He gets into him, turns him around. Both are able to continue. He's going to pull over, and he lets him by.
That's some good sportsmanship right there.
take a look at the replay. Comes up very quickly.
That
But
looks
yeah.
like some.
Yeah, and you could tell from that angle that didn't really touch. This view from above should really tell us as well.
Yeah, as we zoom in right there, we see the speeds into the braking zone. We see Holland then just right there. There's the ghost netcode contact. Unfortunate, but I got to give a round of applause for Holland's being able to just pull over, give the position back to Padavani. That's some good sportsmanship racing right there.
And this may yet continue because we're not seeing any damage on the wing of Holland from that touch. Hopefully Padavani also didn't get any sort of suspension damage. So far the car seems to be running at pace without any issues. And they're probably pretty happy that they have that gap back to Luke. It is only down to 5 seconds. So they didn't lose too much, and they could continue to battle if they want. Boy, how prophetic was that, Taylor? I just said it could come to blows, and lo and behold.
There it goes. But I'm thinking Eric Luke might want that to happen one more time, as he was able to gain 2 seconds on that. As we now see Aaron Webb and Jay Steffi coming around. This is the battle for 16th. They're coming out of Hal Cook into the Mercedes arena. These drivers have been doing pretty good, running consistently, staying on the lead lap, and showing up a great battle between the two.
Yeah, they might actually manage to finish on the lead lap thanks to that incident between the leaders, because they were able to stretch away a little bit. But Steffi taking another look down into Valvoline. Not really a corner I would expect a pass to be made. And indeed, Webb is going to stay ahead.
Going on board with Steffi. He came a long way up from the field, started 32nd on the grid. So I would consider this a successful night for Steffi, as he's now inside the top 20.
As Bill would say, is not necessarily a legitimate hard charger for Jay Steffi, as he didn't put a qualifying time in. Aaron Webb, though, you got to give some credit to. He qualified 23rd. He's up to 16th. But can he hold that 16th? It doesn't look like he'll hold it for long, because here comes a great run from Steffi. He's going to have the outside, though, when they get to the chicane. We've seen this not work out well for drivers going through there too wide before. Steffi's going to try and force the issue. They give each other space. Can he get the run off of it? Almost squeezes Webb off, but I think he's got it done. And white flag will be coming out this time by for Padavani, who continues to lead. David Holland, who is not nearly as close as we saw before, is still giving chase. And they've already regained those 2 seconds on Eric Luke that they lost from the incident just a couple laps before. Through turn 1. The 69 looking to transfer that championship over from the Radical to the Formula 3. And he's currently on track to try and make that happen. Holland's going to try and stop him from taking the inaugural victory here at the Nürburgring for the PRL Formula 3 Series, and he's starting to gain. The gap is coming down. It was 0.7 of a second before. Taylor, you talked about him having to save fuel potentially. I wonder if Padavani's having to back off slightly.
He might have to be right now. I mean, he has lost a lot of time to David Holland, especially through those last few sections of the track, as they're now making the run up to the Schumacher Ashes. This will be a tell right here to see how much Holland is able to gain. Kind of stayed at the same right now as they make the run to Michelin. But it could be a possibility as we are now closing in towards the final few corners right now. Does Padavani have enough as they make the run to the NGK chicane, Joe? This will be the tell sign.
It looks like he is full throttle now because he started to pull back away, and that was a critical moment because Holland is not nearly close enough to try and make a pass into the NGK chicane. He breaks deep anyways, tries to gain as much time as he can, and wheel spin off the corner for Padavani, opens the door to the inside. Holland tries to go for it, and over under maybe from Padavani. No, it's going to be a drag race to the line. Padavani's got the momentum. Who's it going to be? It's Padavani at the line by a mere 24 thousandths of a second. Incredible. What a way to start this series off. And the action is not over because battle between Bertome and Overbay for 7th place also involves Francisco Montini.
Yeah, we are watching that right now. Bertome is currently holding over Michael Overbay. Francisco Montini tries to look to the outside right now as they make the run to NGK. Now goes to the inside. Now back to the outside. Overbay goes to the inside of Bertome. This could be a contact. Oh, we see contact right there. I think Montini got into the back bumper. Let's see what happens. Can Overbay find a way to get by Bertome as they go out of Coca-Cola? I think Bertome might be able to hold him off. Overbay trying to find that last little bit of speed to close the gap. Coming to the line, Bertome will take 7th position.
Into the non-existent bumper of Overbay. Let's take a look at the replay of the finish between Padavani and Holland, though, because wow. That was incredible. Now, are they not actually finished? It looks like they're still racing potentially. I'm not sure.
No, I'm seeing the
Oh, no, yeah, people have exited out. Okay, yeah. I was just worried for a moment. They were still going at pace. And I just wondered because I looked up on my timing and scoring and it told me 1 minute left again and just was not sure. But we did indeed get a good finish between those two as the last of the cars come across the line. It looks like Jay Steffi will be the last car on the lead lap. That's going to take us to break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back after we watch and look at the broadcasts that are coming up here on the GSRC. But then after that, you've got the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to the Nürburgring as we watch the replay there of the start. There we get a good view of some of the drivers who failed to get off the line. It was Jefferson Padovani with a great start off the line, going from third to eventually the win as he had to fight for it all the way down to the end. Look at that. 2/100ths of a second separating himself and newcomer David Holland, who took the pole and certainly was in it all the way to the end. Eric Luke, unfortunately, wasn't really as much of a factor when it came down to the end of the race, but he still takes a satisfying podium. Andre Espinoza with a bit of a quiet fourth. He had a few battles along the way, one of those with Christian Gritzko, who finished P5, and Jose Malbron in 6th from 18th on the grid. Great jump by the 187. Jerome Bertome takes 7th place as Michael Overbay. Unfortunately, doesn't look as strong here in the F3 currently. We'll see if he improves as time goes by, but still in 8th place, not bad. Francisco Montini gets 9th, and then Christopher Richards rounds out your top 10.
Takeshi Kita, Mr. Where Did He Come From, takes 11th. We did a little research and finding out he actually got involved with that wreck on the start of the race, dropped back all the way to dead last, climbed back up to 11th. So I think that deserves a hard charger award right there. Federico Montini will come home 12th, followed by Mark Feil in 13th. David Cristelli will come home 14th, followed by Andy Spicer in 15th. Aaron Webb finishes 16th, while Jay Steffi will finish the last car on the lead lap in 17th. Charles Sumner will finish 18th with Paul Wildridge in 19th, and Danny Duchesne rounds out your top 20.
21st goes to Mike Richter with Joe Walker in 22nd. Then it's Matthew Gunderson in 23rd. Phil Guillaumin in 24th, and then Daniel Barnett in 25th. Then you get to the cars 2 laps down. Traffic certainly was a factor today. Tyler Gore 26th, Owen McLaughlin 27th, and Craig Holden 28th. Then it's Ronald McManus 29th and Scotty Zerk 30th. Then you get to the DNFs for the day. Daniel Ziegers, Lennon Swaby, Kevin Santana, and Marco Oliveira. A few drivers disappointed in their first go in the PRL in the Formula 3. But we have our winner ready to talk to us. Glitter Pants joins us once again. Jefferson, doesn't matter if it's the Radical or the F3, you seem to be a pretty fast driver.
Yeah, good evening, guys. I like this car. Oh, just a moment. Sorry, I was on another channel. So, good evening, guys. Yes, it's difficult for me to speak in English, and with somebody talking behind, it's even worse. So, this was a very, very fun race. I was not expecting that again. Michael and Eric made a huge setup. The race was fantastic. The size of this grid, the PRL guys are. I want to congratulate them. It's amazing. The race was amazing.
It was amazing from our perspective, too. Tell us a little bit about that finish. What happened there with the final chicane and the wheel spin? And did you think you could hold on to it? Did you intentionally give the inside of the final corner to Holland, or did that also surprise you?
No, in fact, Joe, that was totally unexpected. That part of the track is the most difficult one because we have to set this car to turn fast, and then you get really unstable during the going over the curb. So that part, I think, was the worst chicane that I did on the race, just on the final lap. But that was not intentional. It's totally it happened. I was not intending to do that, but uh, it was. I didn't expected that to happen, but it worked. And and we have a touch a couple of laps before this, and it's totally okay. Uh, that time I remember the David Unger touch on Road American. I say, "Oh, the David is."
And we saw that touch happen on screen as well. You seem to have the strategy down pretty well because you jumped Holland by a significant margin in the pit stops too. Do you think you have stuff that you could still learn about the strategy in these cars, or are you pretty set and nailed down on how exactly the strategy should work in these things?
Yeah, in fact, Joe, I think the thing that makes the difference probably David put a little bit more fuel than I. Michael gave me the exact number that I have to put to finish the race, and for a safety reason, I put a half a liter more. Probably because of it's. I think I had a gap of 1 second. Probably David put a little bit more fuel. I put exactly 11 liters. He probably put 13 or something like that, just to be safe. But these 2 or 3 liters make all the difference. Strategy really counts here, every race.
It certainly seemed to be the case. Again, congratulations. I'm glad you had fun. We certainly did. We hope to see you when we come back in a week's time.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, guys. I want to thanks to Apex Button Box to supporting us and to supporting you, and to be, they made this wonderful show to be able to happen. Good night.
That was Jefferson Padavani. Always classy, giving thanks to the sponsors there. Up next, Taylor's going to be talking to the second place driver who just nearly won on his first time out here in the F3 for the PRL, David Holland.
Yes, indeed. Here we are with David Hollins. And David, I tell you what, you put on an excellent show here for the fans at the Nürburgring. Tell us about your race and a little bit more of what's to come for this season for you.
Hey guys, how's it going? Man, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, like you said, this is my first race in the F3, first race in the PRL league. Really enjoying it so far. I got to thank my teammates Christian, Lyndon, Rim. Really worked hard on getting this thing set up throughout the week, and looks like it turned out pretty well. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah, indeed. It was quite a lot of fun. We did notice about the ghost contact. Tell us about the situation, what went through your mind when that contact happened.
Yeah, you definitely never want to see that. Didn't mean to do it. I, was purposely trying to give a little bit of room under braking just because of, how fast these cars are. And, you cover a lot of ground really quick. But it did seem like I still had a little bit of room on my screen. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to take the position there. I let him go back by. Never want to see.
Yeah, and that was a great sportsmanship conduct that you had there. And we look forward to seeing what you can do this season. It looks like you, Padavani, and Eric Luke are going to be some of the main front runners we'll be looking forward to seeing. So we look forward to seeing what you can do at the next round.
Yep, I'm excited.
Is there anyone you want to thank?
Got to give a shout out to the wife for putting up with all this pixel racing shenanigans. Just being a great sport.
Yes, indeed. We got to always make sure, think of our family for allowing to do stuff like this. So that was David Holland, our second place driver. And I believe Joe caught up with Eric Luke.
I have indeed, Eric, with a third place, though he started on the front row. And Eric, we noticed off the start, it looked like you didn't get the greatest launch. Is it kind of tricky to get these things going on the green?
Well, I practiced for just about everything before this race except how to launch the car, so it was kind of trial by fire.
Oof, yeah, it's a good thing you didn't lose more than in that case. Regardless, you managed to bring it home in third place, but it looked like you didn't have anything for either Padavani or Holland. Is this one of the first times that you've raced in this car? Do you have much experience in the F3?
I did some of the races at Watkins Glen in the F3. I think that was during week 13. I think it was, or maybe it was last week. Anyway, moral of the story is that I have had some time behind it, not nearly as much as the Radical, so I'm still kind of getting accustomed to it. As a matter of fact, I set my fastest laps during practice before the race, so it's still a learning curve. It drives very much different than the Radical.
What are the main differences that you'd say are between the way these two cars drive? Because we were told that power to weight wise, they were pretty close to each other.
The biggest thing is the amount of downforce and the amount of grip that the cars actually have. You're able to accelerate sooner with the wheel turned more than you could in the Radical. So that's also another adjustment that you're trying to get used to is you can have more steering angle and accelerate, unlike the Radical, where if you have too much steering angle, it's just your spin city.
Well, we'll be hoping that you won't have too much Spin City because it's going to be a very technical track next time in Zandvoort. Will we see you in a week's time?
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.
Fantastic. So that was Eric Luke, our third place finisher, talking to us. And that was our podium for today's race, the inaugural round of the PRL Formula 3 series, who is brought to you by Apex Button Box. So a big thank you goes out to them for sponsoring this season. Obviously, again, if you want to check them out, you can find them at facebook.com/Apex Button Box. We'll see who gets one of their button boxes at the end of these 10 rounds. Big thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Of course, all you got to do is go to their YouTube page, click the big red button that says subscribe, and then you'll get all of the F3 series in your YouTube feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. They're listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Taylor, Blair, Sean, Dougie, and of course our spotter in the background, John Ambrose, who helped out. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check us out on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race, as we mentioned, we're going over to the Netherlands. This is very appropriate for the Formula 3 car, Zandvoort, where they hold the F3 Masters, or have for a number of years, rather. That'll be Thursday, June 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.